Hello, everyone, and a special good evening to you. I hope that you're enjoying a wonderful Saturday. Simone here, and we're back again for another wonderful Facebook presentation with a special guest, Miss Ferdina Frampton. And this evening, we are speaking about women in leadership. So, the challenges and the opportunities of women in leadership. And I'm very happy that Ferdina agreed to join us to speak on this very important conversation. So come on in. We have a wonderful guest for you this evening that we certainly cannot wait to hear from. And as we are allowing everyone to come in, of course, I want to thank the sponsor for our program, TDN Radio. And I want to invite you to, of course, share the link and tag someone who may benefit from our time together. But I also wanted to take this time as we allow everyone to come in and join the conversation. I wanted to take this time to thank everyone who's been supporting this program. At last count, we had about 45,500 visitors in the last 28 days. So we certainly have a lot of people who are supporting us on this program, and I am very happy that you're part of my mission to promote our people, promote our culture, and promote our businesses at every end of the world. So we travel far and wide to promote our people, our culture, and our businesses. And of course, we're joining with Ferdina out of Dominica. And I just want us to kind of think of social media a little bit differently. So that is one of my goals with this program. I want to kind of have us expand our understanding of what media means. So I want us to think, in addition to radio and television, the importance of video presentations such as this one, as well as the power of social media to connect with potential customers, to connect with people who already support us, and to just use social media more than just for, posting your dinner from last night, showing off your wonderful kids. I want us to use social media to learn and to grow and to just empower each other. So I'm very happy that Ferdina is joining us this evening. And as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and invite her to the conversation. So good evening, Ferdina. How are you?
Hi, good evening to you, Simone. Good evening to all the viewers, all the listeners of the program. It is such a pleasure to do this with you this evening.
Yes, and of course, we're going to go ahead and make sure we're sharing the link
Yes,
to the program. So
yes,
let me
yes.
grab that for you as we say good evening to Roslyn. We say good evening to Glenda and Beverly. So, guys, don't forget to tag everyone as we come in. So, let me grab the link for this program and let me pass it over to Ferdina so that she can go ahead and share it with everyone. And for Diana, I'm going to send it to you via WhatsApp, and then we can continue the great conversation we're going to have today. So, how is everyone doing? How is your week going? I hope you had a great week and that your weekend is going just as well. So, come on in. Remember to tag someone and remember to share the live. So, Fadina, I just sent it to you. If you want to
Right?
go ahead and forward it to everyone on your end who we know would love to be able to be a part of this conversation as well.
I'm going to do that as we speak. So if we could
Yes, I'll
just,
give you a minute to do that while I continue to say good evening to our wonderful audience. We have Idris, we have Dennis, we have Rosalind again, Sandra. So, hi guys, thank you for being here. We're going to have a great conversation. And of course, we're not going to exclude the men from this conversation.
we should
I know
not.
that it says women in leadership, but of course, we're going to make sure that we're including the men in the conversation. So come on in, guys. Come on in. We're just setting up. We are getting ready for the conversation. Tanya Green, oh, phenomenal woman. Thank you for being here. So, we need to get Tanya on the program because she made a complete 180. She went from corporate America to creating her own treats,
Business.
Dominica Treats Company. So, Tanya, congratulations on all your success. And hopefully, we can have you join us one day to be on the program. So, as we get started, Ferdina, kind of just tell us, how is Dominica? I hear it's pretty
Dominica
hot
is
out there.
hot. Last night it was so very hot. But you know what?
Yes.
We complain when it's cold, we complain when it's hot. For me, I prefer when it's a little cool and cold. I prefer that over the hot every single day. But it's quite hot in Dominica. But of course, Dominica is as beautiful and tranquil as we know it to be. And it's my country. I love my country, and I will always continue to be Dominican to the bone.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. And of course, we go all the way back to our days at Sifukal. We won't say what year that was,
No, some
but
people
we,
have tried to sell us out, a few times, sell me out a few times, but
yes, we go all the way back to our days at Sifukal. And for Diana, I don't know if you know this, but we share a niece in common. Bernard Frampton and my sister Susan have a daughter
Minka.
by the name of Minka Frampton. That's my niece.
I did not know that, Simone.
Yes, yes.
We're learning
So we
things.
share, and she's such a wonderful and beautiful
She
young lady. I'm
is.
so
She
proud of
is.
her.
She is. She's doing her thing.
Yes. So I
Yes.
thought you might be interested in knowing that there's a connection
Yes.
between us. Look at me
Well,
claiming family for Dinah.
no, no, no. Well, let's connect.
But anyway, as we begin our conversation, just kind of take us back to your formative years. I know that you spent a lot of time growing up in Pichler, Loubier, Point Michel. Just kind of tell us how those formative years led to the person that you are today.
Mhm. It's interesting that you ask me about my formative years because I don't think I settled in any one place for a very long time until I finally went to Point Michel the second time to live with my father and my stepmom. So I went from Loubier, Pichler, Point Michel, back to Pichler. It was a little, quite a bit for me, but all the same. From Pichler, I would probably single out my grandmother. I stayed with my grandmother in Pichler, and I think my grandmother was a little strict old lady, and I was probably about 9, 10 at the time I stayed with her. I think I stayed with her for about 2 years, and upakapale pati boy, don't talk to boys. I
Mm,
couldn't talk to boys. My grandmother wouldn't have that. But one of the things that my grandmother taught me very early on was responsibility in terms of understanding what it is to take on your chores. My grandmother would bring me to the river to wash the clothes. That's where you could
mhm,
go to do laundry. So I'd be in the river, washing my clothes with my granny. She would give us the little Mac cafe in the morning, so they would take the stronger version for themselves. But she would give us all a little bit of our Mac cafe. So for me, the Pichler bit was a learning bit for me, and just spending some time in the countryside. Although Pichler is not so much country, it's so much different from being in Point Michel or Loubier, for example. But I enjoyed that part of my time in Pichler with my granny. Loubier, the time I spent in Loubier was primarily with my mother at one point in time. Now, my mother was quite the fashionista. My mother we would always see my mother in her suits, her pantsuits, and she would always be at the hairdresser. And my mother loved red lipstick.
mm,
She did. And I love red lipstick. So, whatever little fashion sense I have, it really started with my mother. She would iron my hair every weekend and always ensure that I look clean and pretty. So for me, from my mother's end, that would have been just learning what it is to be feminine and
mhm,
to always look pretty, always have your hair done, always looking good, and always smelling good. Then
mhm.
the last place I would have moved to would have been Point Michel with my father and my stepmother after having passed my common entrance from Pishley. So that's where I passed common entrance from. And my Point Michel upbringing is somewhat one of mixed feelings. But
Mhm.
I'll say this to you though, that it is in that setting that I really learned to do a lot of the things that I know to do. And I'm speaking about being able to cook, being able to clean. Probably we thought at the time, my stepmother was probably being mean by having us do the cleaning every weekend, the ironing, the cooking. So myself and my stepsister Gail would interchange the cooking on a weekend. One would do Sunday, one would do Saturday, and so on. So I really think, and talk about being strict. My grandmother couldn't come close to my father and my stepmom in
Wow.
terms of, yeah, being very protective of especially the girls. We would think that probably the boys got away with murder, while we were always the ones where we would be told, you cannot go there or you cannot do this. And we really, really had a strict upbringing with my parents in Point Michelle, my father and my stepmom. But I'll tell you, overall, Simone, I think every experience, the one with my mom, the one with my grandmother, I even said with an aunt of mine at one point in time, I think they all together taught me so much, that I think I became much stronger for it all in terms of dealing with life, and life's daily challenges. So overall, I think, my upbringing challenging at times, but I think overall, a good experience and learning opportunity for me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I think a lot of us can identify with you in terms of having that very strict upbringing,
Mhm.
especially the girls, I have to say, because I grew up in a household with, boys and girls as well. And it always seemed like the boys had so much more freedom to roam, but I guess the concern was always, we as girls, we would go out and get pregnant. Like the boys couldn't get somebody's girl pregnant, right? I
Right?
never quite understood it, but I think that was one of the concerns that they wanted to keep us at home to make sure. And then, being at home, what did we end up doing? We ended up studying. So
Yes,
I think
yes,
that led to a
and
lot of
doing better
us
than the boys.
being successful as girls. So thank you for sharing that. Now I know you speak very highly of your dad. So I want to talk a little bit about him and especially how he encouraged you to pursue your first job of being on Voice of Life. So can you just tell us about that and tell us about how you found your footing when you were thrusted into the environment of having to host the radio show on Sunday all by yourself?
I think my father, for some reason, wanted at least one or two of his children to follow in his footsteps. My
Mhm.
father at the time had left a job where he was doing pretty well. We had no concerns for money, for food, for nothing, and went back into broadcasting, where it became a bit of a struggle, I guess, at some point in time. But he loved it so much, and he really wanted at least one or two of his children to grow up and get into the field of broadcasting. So at the age of 16, I was at the time at C4 and my father, 16 going on 17. My father at the time was the program director at the recently opened Voice of the Islands radio. And my father, one gentleman was leaving. I don't recall if it was Father Sharpless or somebody else was leaving at the time, and they needed somebody to do some weekend shifts, long shifts, 5, 6 hours.
Wow.
And my father did ask me, if I would be interested in doing it, and of course my response was not really. I really was not interested in it at the time. And I will give some credit to my stepmom. She really encouraged me and told me that probably you should think about it, give it a shot and see what can come out of it. And eventually I did. I agreed, I consented, and then I started doing those weekend shifts on a Saturday and the Sunday. Quite frankly, I thought that my weekend time was being taken away from me, but
Hmm.
I really didn't want to disappoint my father, and so I decided that I should do the programs. And my father would take his time and go through the records and select some of the favorites that he thought people would enjoy on a Sunday afternoon. Keep in mind, this is something that he did for many years as well, Sunday afternoon in particular. And my father would take his time and he would carry up all the records upstairs for me to the studio. And all I would have to do is turn to the back. And at that time, it was the turntables, turn
Hmm.
at the back of the record and look at the ones that are ticked and play them. And, you would think, here is a 16-year-old playing that type of music. How could she? But it was really all due to my father, who would really dedicate his time to ensuring that I had the right music, that would attract the audience, the persons who would listen to the oldie goldies it was on a Sunday afternoon. And I
Hmm.
did that for quite a while, and I got to enjoy it. And that's why today I know all about the Tom Joneses and the Engelbert Humperdinks and the Marvin Gayes, and all of that good stuff, the Carpenters and all the rest. But
Yeah.
I
Now,
enjoyed it.
would you say that it taught you to be independent at an early age as well, to stand on your own 2 feet?
Absolutely, Simone, because guess what? They paid me. I
Hmm.
got a little something,
Hmm.
at the end of the month that I would put on a savings account and
Hmm.
used to get, the little things that I needed. So that was really an early introduction into being somewhat independent, responsible as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know, unfortunately, Voice of Life went under,
Voice of the
unfortunately.
Islands, Voice
Yeah,
of the
Voice,
Islands.
yes, Voice of the Islands went under. And then you moved over to the Chronicle, where you had a not so favorable experience. Can you tell us about that?
I can definitely share that with you and your audience, Simone. So, when Voice of the Islands was closing, I actually got a call from the Chronicle. So they called and offered me a job, asked me to come
Nice.
in to see them. And I did. Now, the person that I had to see was the editor at the time, who was a Guyanese gentleman, Mr. Osmond. And I remember going in to speak with Mr. Osmond, and Mr. Osmond says to me, I do not like hiring females.
He
It's not
said
my.
that to you.
He did, and I was a bit taken aback. Like, what do you mean that you're not keen on hiring females? To be honest with you, I can't remember the reasoning that he gave me at the time, Simone. But by the time he was done with me, because I am known to have what you call an infectious personality.
Yes, you
Well,
do.
he really was happy to hire that female. And I had
Mhm.
a very good relationship with Mr. Osmond. Mr. Osmond was a very good editor. And what he did as well, Simon, he gave me leeway to do as
Mhm.
I wanted. So I would go to report, to cover a story. I would come back, do whatever, and he would have me leave and go home probably about 2 o'clock.
Ah,
I'm telling you, Mr.
nice.
Osman and I developed such a wonderful relationship that
Mhm.
sometimes I wondered, is that the same gentleman who said he was not interested in hiring
Yeah,
females? And
yeah.
there it is. So at the time, I was wondering, why would he even say that to me? I was pretty
Mhm.
young, still in my teens at the time.
Mhm.
So I was pretty young, and I could not understand why somebody would say that
Mhm.
to a young woman, just merely entering into the world of work. And this is the first impression that she's having in terms of not wanting to hire
Yeah,
females.
and it's unfortunate because it seems like you experience what some women experience very, very early in your career, that pushback that at least he said it to you, but many times it's kind of like clandestine where people don't really appreciate working with women, but they keep their opinion to themselves, but you can see it in their action. So at any point, did you feel like you had to prove him wrong and show him that as a woman, you're just as competent as the male colleagues at the News Chronicle?
So, as I mentioned before, we developed such a great relationship that
Hmm.
I didn't think that I had to really prove anything to Mr. Osman. And I
Hmm.
don't think that I even had the time to, because I think within
Right.
6 months I was gone.
Oh, you were gone and you moved over to DBS.
Correct. So I moved over to
Yes.
DBS
Tell us
Radio.
about that.
Again, another opportunity came up at DBS Radio. I think they were looking for an announcer reporter at the time. And I won't hesitate to say that my father was the general manager at the time at Voice of the Islands Radio. But I think, um, I was very deserving of the job. I don't know if my father had any influence in me getting the job. A person might say, well, if your father was the general manager, then chances are he said, my daughter is the one to hire. But he had no part to do with the interviews. It was Charmaine Green Brown, Miss Caesar, and I don't remember who maybe Felix Henderson. I don't really remember who the other person was. And I think I represented myself well because, Simone, what you will learn about me as we go through the interview is that I like to prepare. So I would go
Mm-hmm.
prepared for the interview, and I thought that I did well at the interview, and I got selected for the job. And I think over the years that and during my time, the 9 years that I spent at DBS Radio, I think I more than proved that I was, the right choice for the job at the time because, I really left my mark, I believe, at that radio station.
Yeah, and I want you to share with us some of your most memorable experiences in those 9 years at DBS. But before we do, we have another media colleague on the live with us, Nicole Georges, and she says, I've always
Oh.
admired how she's able to think on her feet and ad lib. She's got the gift of la parole. Thank you, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yes, certainly.
In media and broadcasting, you have to be able to do that.
Yes.
You have to be able to just figure it out right there on the spot.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm,
think for me, again, as I've said before, because it came naturally,
mm-hmm,
broadcasting is something that came very naturally to me
mm-hmm.
because of my father. Again, I think,
Yes.
I've never really done any formal training in broadcasting. I've done some trainings here, 3 months training in the Netherlands. I went to Ecuador. I went to a few places where I did some training. I didn't even do the 1 year that they would sometimes do at UE, for media. But because it came to me naturally, I think I just fell into place with media, and when the need arose, I would do what I need to do to get out of trouble or to do whatever needed to be done
Navigate
at
the
the time.
waters. Yeah,
Navigate the
absolutely.
waters. That's it.
Yes,
That's it,
yes.
Simone.
So,
Yes.
some of your favorite memories from DBS?
Boy, TBS has so many memories. I think one of the very first ones that I can share is that the very first day that I got to DBS, Angelo Allen was the news editor. I was sent to present news, 115 news, that very same day.
Wow.
Yes, baptismal by fire, you call
By
that.
fire.
But thank God I had already had some news presenting experience at Voice of the Islands Radio
Mhm.
through Matt Peltier. Matt Peltier was, doing news at the time at Voice of the Islands Radio. So I already had experience with news presenting. But on that day in question, I am given the news package. I don't even know how you start to present or anything.
Do you
So
say your name?
DBS has these two heavy doors, and one is opened, and I'm stuck in the other one, and I'm like frozen, and I cannot make my way to the studio to go and present the people's news. Then
Wow.
Angelo comes, Ferdines. By the way, Angelo Allen, for those of you who don't know, is the one who actually gave me the nickname Ferdines.
Hmm.
Ferdines, what you doing? Come on, go in. And he literally pushed me in to
That's
go into the
nice.
studio, and
Hmm.
that was the first day that I presented news at DBS Radio. And of course, after that, it all came very natural. I guess I was a little nervous. It was a nation station. I mean, come
Hmm.
on, you're going to present the 115 total news.
Absolutely.
when
That's a
you
big deal.
when you hear that introduction by Steinberg Henry, I
Yes.
mean, so I
Hmm.
really was in fact quite a bit nervous about going in to do the news presentation.
Hmm.
Um, a couple other things. I at one time assisted with the writing and even presenting of the 100 Great Dominicans series that DBS introduced.
Hmm.
And one of the things that made an impact on me was a program I did on Dr. Bernard Sorrento. When I say I did, I wrote the program. It was presented by Charmaine Green Brown. and I don't remember who the production person was at the time, but it could have been me because I also did the production as well. Or Jermaine Roy might have done the production. And that program won an award in the region. I don't really
Wow.
remember the details of the award,
Mhm,
but we
mhm,
won an award, and the award is still at DBS, and
mhm,
we also got some money, so that for me was, if I could write something that the region within,
mhm.
I think it might have been CBU or somewhere, that they could recognize the work and it could win among um, other programs. I thought, oh my God, you're not too bad at all,
Mhm,
And some of
mhm,
the other things, they were not, some of them were not possibly happy times in terms of the
mhm.
passing of Rosie Douglas,
Yeah.
the passing of Pierre Charles. These were really
Yeah.
huge
Mhm,
moments, at least for me, in
mhm.
having to broadcast and be part of all of it, that those for me, I definitely will not forget. And so many other amazing experiences I had at DBS Radio. I mean, I cannot say anything terrible about DBS Radio. I think DBS Radio laid the foundation for me to be where I am today. Sorry. And I will never forget DBS Radio. Of course, there were times that there would have been some not so good times, whether for politics or whatever the case might have been, because people thought, my father is on this side, so I'm on that side or
Right.
this side, and and probably a little intimidation here and there. But overall, I enjoyed my 9 years at DBS Radio, and I would not trade it for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell. And of course, you also mentioned the importance of being prepared. So I want us to look at that further. But the accolades are coming in, and we have Glenda that says, Ferdines always knows how to make her nervous guests comfortable during her interviews. And I'm happy to see as well, Alex Bruno is on the live. And he
Oh,
says, what is that? Feferyo, my sister. That must be a name between
Fefio,
Fefio.
Fefio.
Oh, that's a name between you guys. My
Yes,
sister and colleague for life. Keep
yes.
climbing. Ferdina Frampton, daughter of Ferdinand Frampton.
Simone, if you
So,
will allow me, I really want to just take a second there and
yes.
really give some tribute and some credit and recognition to Alex Bruno. I think Alex Bruno is one of the major talents that we have. He does not reside in Dominica right now, he resides outside of Dominica. But I think Alex is very creative, Alex is bright, Alex is intelligent, and Alex, serves, I think, as a mentor to me, because I will tell you, there are times that with my In the Spotlight radio show, depending on the guest that I'm having, I reach out to Alex and I would say to Alex, I'm having this person. Is there anything that you think you could share with me that I may need to know about the person and so on? And I want him to know this evening that I do appreciate him and I appreciate that he's always there willing to support me and to give me feedback, or just to embrace me whenever I reach out to him.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of us can attest to what you're saying about Alex because I too have been the recipient of his generosity because he's the one behind my Sasenu program. So
Oh,
he's the one who holds up the program every week. I'm like, Alex, are we on? He's like, Simone, I made a commitment to you. You don't need to ask me every other week if
oh,
we're on. Just
oh,
assume that I'm going to be there. So I too have been the beneficiary of his generosity. So, Alex, we want to both commend you
yes.
for being so supportive. So, now let's talk about the importance of being prepared because, like every good thing, in life, the radio career came to an end
Mm-hmm.
and you were moving on to cable and wireless. So, just kind of tell us how you prepared for the interview. And let's just speak about the importance of being prepared in general.
So important. So while at DBS, in May of 2005, I think it was, or April, I got a call from two persons at Cable Wireless saying to me that there is going to be an opening. One of the persons who actually called me was the one who was moving from that particular position, and it was a corporate communications executive. And the job was not offered to me by HR or management. It was just a couple of people who were aware. So you're talking about James Dominic, Deanna Noel, these persons who were aware of what was coming on, because Deanna Noel actually was the person who was moving on to another role. And so they called me and told me about the position and that I should apply. Now, I'll tell you secretly, I always had a desire to work at Cable and Wireless. I always thought that they wore the nicest uniforms. The company seemed so, all together. And, it was the envy of places to work. But I always said to myself, I'm into broadcasting, I'm into media. I don't think that I'll ever get an opportunity to work at Cable and Wireless. So lo and behold, then I'm being told about the corporate communications executive position. And I said, absolutely. And so I applied, and I think it was me and three other persons who were contesting for that particular role. But I'll tell you, Simone, when I knew I had to go into that interview, I started to prepare. Preparation is the key. It is very, very important. What I did, Simone, I started to gather my reference letters, letters that I got at DBS, for doing good work and all of that. I had also at one point in time done um, uh, an ad for Cable and Wireless when they were doing their BMW promotion. So I was one of those people who appeared, I think, in either a half page or a full page ad in a newspaper talking about gotta get those keys. So and I had my cutout of that. I had a full file of
Mhm.
everything that I needed for that interview, and I walked with my file, right?
Mhm.
I made sure that I had to look the part. So it's important to
Yes.
look the part.
Yes.
I had a suit made.
Mhm.
A
You
suit
had a suit made.
made for my interview, my dear. I had a suit made. I got my hair done, and I made sure that I looked the. I think I may have worn red lipstick, which I probably should not have, because you don't wear red lipstick to
No,
an
to an
interview.
interview. No, that's a no-no.
But I
You
knew
were
that though.
channeling your mom.
But I wanted, for whatever reason, I wanted my red lipstick. And I
Mhm.
went into the interview prepared. I read
Yes.
upon the company. I researched the company. Any question that they would have asked me about Cable and Wireless at that time, I mean, general, generic questions, I would have been able to answer. If they asked me to produce my documents, references and everything, I had everything ready for that interview. And I think I blew the interview out of the water. The other thing is that the general manager at the time, Colin James, sat in on my interview only, if I recall. And I
Mm.
remember him being told that he said, that's the person for the job. Yes. So the general manager, it wasn't his decision to make, quite frankly.
Mhm.
HR, I think, made the decisions at the time, of course, with his input. But I understood that once he was part of my interview, he said, this is the person we're going to give a chance, an opportunity with that job. There was a little something that happened in the process of getting, of being informed about the job and then getting another call. Yeah, but all I'll say is that, I went in, I think I blew them away. I came prepared.
Mhm.
And Simone, just to make the point again, being prepared is important. Looking the
Mhm.
part, dressing the part,
Absolutely.
making that very important first impression.
Mhm.
You really need to consider that when you're going in for job interviews, whatever it is that you're doing, prepare coming to your interview this evening.
Yes.
I gave you the
Yes.
story about my hair situation, but it was beyond my control, you understand? But yet still,
Yes, you're
I
prepared.
made every effort to
Yes.
prepare, to
Yes.
present myself well on your program
Yes.
here today.
And I have to tell you, Ferdina, the importance of doing that research, because I think many times that is where you tip yourself on the scale. Because people come in, they will answer the questions, but if you have not researched the company, even researched the person who is going to interview you. LinkedIn is available. Everyone, all professionals I know, they're on LinkedIn.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
simply researching the person to give yourself that edge It's very important. And
Yep.
with all the career choices that you've made, I also want to talk about the importance of transferable skills.
Hmm.
But before I do, I just want to say good evening to everyone who's on the Facebook Live with us. And just to remind you that we're speaking to Miss Ferdina Frampton out of Dominica. She's the marketing and corporate communication lead at Cable and Wireless Flow Dominica, and she's also the host of the In the Spotlight radio show on Q95. And today we're having a wonderful conversation on the importance of women in leadership and just leadership in general, and how do
Hmm.
you prepare to ascend in the corporate environment or any field that you're pursuing. So, Ferdinand, can you tell us about some transferable skills that you may have applied from your very first job when you were 16 to the Chronicle to DBS that you brought with you to Cable and Wireless Flow?
Uh, Very important. One of my skills is my ability to speak and to speak properly. As you may you as you may want to say. So that started off for me at Voice of the Islands Radio, and that transcended through the Chronicle. The Chronicle, though, was more about writing. So for me, the two key things was the ability to be able to speak eloquently, and to be able to present and represent yourself, and whether it be the company, a product, or whatever the case might be, and the ability to write. Writing is very, very important. So at Voice of the Islands Radio, I began being able to present by presenting the news, and even writing the news, and being on the radio, and just having this interaction with your audience, even if you're not able to see your audience. That is a skill, and that is important. So then I got to DBS. And as I said, again, DBS really helped lay this foundation. I did so many things at DBS. I wrote news, I presented news, I wrote sports, I presented sports, I hosted talk shows, I presented programs, I wrote programs, I did outside broadcasts, I just name it, and I was an all-rounder at DBS. And these skills are skills that in many instances you attain naturally, and some you learn, and some you hone so that you get better at it. And so um, when I got to Cable and Wireless, the role was a corporate communications executive, which literally meant that you were responsible for communicating to both internal stakeholders and to external stakeholders. And you required the ability to be able to communicate with people in an effective manner, both verbally and in writing. You would be required to write press releases. You would be required to chair functions. And I just think those skills that I learned and acquired over those years just made fitting into this role at Cable and Wireless so much easier. And it was almost like I wasn't, working a day in my life, because I
Mhm.
just thoroughly enjoyed what I did in terms of when I started as a corporate communications executive. I really and truly enjoyed it.
Yes, and I'm so happy we're having this conversation because there might be someone out there who's thinking of making a career change, and they've already convinced themselves that they do not have the skill sets
Mm,
for that particular job. So you speak so very nicely about the ability to take certain skills
yes,
from one particular job and apply them to a new career. So I'm certainly appreciative that you're sharing this information.
absolutely. You're most welcome.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Now, would you say that as a woman in corporate, well, the Caribbean, I was going to say corporate America, but in the Caribbean, do you think there are unique skill sets that we possess as women that serve as opportunities for success?
Mhm. Um, I think by nature, women are maternal beings. And
Mm-hmm,
what comes with that, Simone? What
mm-hmm,
comes with that is caring,
mm-hmm,
nurturing, um looking out for others. I think this is one of the things that women naturally bring into the business place. Those maternal instincts that you have and those experiences, I think it makes for a very conducive working environment when you have women in there. Now, I am not a mother myself as yet, but I know what it is to feel the effects of a mother. And there are women who can bring that into the workplace and make it so much easier for some of us to be able to cope in the workplace. I think by nature, women are very helpful. Women are very helpful. And so, we bring that into the workplace as well in terms of helping each other. So Ferdina is not able to do, and I'm speaking from my point of view, it may not obtain for all women, but I think generally speaking,
Mhm.
so Simone may need some help with an Excel spreadsheet. Ferdina is good at it. Ferdina knows that if Simone does not get this spreadsheet done by a certain time, she could get in trouble. Simone
Mhm.
asks for help. Ferdina will help,
Absolutely, because when
right?
Ferdinand needs help, Simone is gonna jump in.
Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
by nature as well, Simone, I think women are great leaders.
Mhm.
um I think we know what it is to lead people and to take this leadership umbrella and to help others. Women are known to be fair. And I just see all of this, we can bring
Mhm.
into the workplace and make the workplace such a much more beautiful place to work. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
had those kinds of experiences with women, or if you yourself can probably relate to some of those. We are emotionally intelligent.
Mhm.
We know what it is like to understand and manage our emotions, and at the same time to understand and manage the emotions of others, and to influence how they deal with their emotions. So I think generally, and women should be given a little bit more credit for that. I know sometimes you might say, well, with women in a workplace, it's a lot of gossiping, and there will be that as well. But if you look at the bigger picture of women and the contribution that they make to the workplace, we are intelligent, we inspire others, we motivate others, we are helpful, and we are great leaders if given the
Mhm.
opportunity to lead.
Yes, very well said. And if I might just add if I might just make a contribution to what you've already said, I think we're also natural multitaskers.
Yes.
And I think I'm not sure if that is inherited, if it's genetics, or if it's because, like, for example, in my case, I watched my mom cook, clean. I had a nephew who was learning to walk. He was attached to her dress, walking around the house. So I'm not sure if we learn it from watching our mothers
I
do
believe
so
so.
many different things
Mhm.
at home, or is it part of our genes? But we are natural multitaskers. So I think that too can serve as a very important strength
Mhm.
that we bring to the workplace.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes, absolutely,
We are
absolutely. So,
definitely assets. We are definitely assets.
yes, thank you for sharing. And I know again you speak very highly of your dad, but can you tell us about some mentors along the way who have, helped you in your career to date?
Um, no, they're not women.
It
Most of
doesn't
my
have to
mentors are
be.
men. And
Yes,
again,
doesn't have to be. And that's
starting
important.
starting with my father. So
Yes.
my father, I think, was my biggest mentor, and he helped me so much along the way. And I think probably it's because he told me from the time I was a baby, he would bring me to sleep in the studios of DVS while he's there. Yes, he would put a blanket on
Wow.
the floor of the studios, and he would
Mhm.
have me there. And I think my father was always one who looked out for me and
Mhm.
wanted me to do well and wanted me to excel. I had the natural talent, I had the natural skill, but my father was always there, pushing me. Steinberg Henry is another person, who would always provide support, even today, a few weeks ago, I had a chat with Steinberg, and Steinberg would probably listen to one of my programs on the radio. He would call me and give me some feedback, and he was my sociology teacher too.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he was my
Mhm.
sociology teacher at Call as well. So
Mhm.
Steinberg is one of those that that touch base. And again, I mentioned Alex Bruno. Alex Bruno really does give me so much encouragement, even in my role at Cable and Wireless. Sometimes totally outside of outside of broadcasting. Alex Bruno has been there, and there are just some. I've lost both my mother and my father, so I'm technically an orphan, but there's so many women, older women, who reach out to me and ensure that I'm okay. They may not necessarily provide the type of mentorship that I need
Mhm.
in the workplace, where media is concerned, but just people who reach out to me and show me so much love. Romualda Hyacinth, Natalie Simon, Iris James, so many of them that just make sure that although my mother is gone, that I still have mother figures,
Mhm.
who continue to care for me and look out for me. But most of my mentors, where the workplace is concerned, and James Dominic, I must
Mhm.
mention James Dominic, because when I went into Cable and Wireless, James Dominic was my manager at the time. And there was so much James taught me where corporate communications was concerned, to the smallest things, like, when we're having a media function, ensure that the GM is not wearing a colorful shirt, make sure that he's not wearing this tie. And, James Dominic was one of the persons who taught me so much. And I'm so grateful to all of these people. And some I may not have been able to mention, but so many of them have been there for me, have been encouraging me. And, even at the times when, I've been probably a little down about something, these are all people that I can call and have a conversation, depending on the subject matter, and feel better when I'm done.
Yes, and I'm truly happy we're having this conversation, because I think what happens is many times we see successful people like you,
Mhm.
and we don't realize that there are people who are supporting you. You're not doing this on your own, and we too are not expected to do this on our own,
Mhm.
because there's the popular expression that no man is an island. But even
Mhm.
now with St. Vincent, we realize that even if you're an island, you still need neighboring islands.
Yep.
So we all need each other. So what can we
Yes.
do to make a contribution to someone else's success, and in turn have them make a contribution to our success? And I'm
Mhm.
also happy that you mentioned women in the workplace, because unfortunately I hear a lot about women don't support women, and I
Mhm.
think that is so unfortunate. So can you speak a little bit about that? Has that been your experience in general, that you receive more support from men, or it's equal footing?
No, it's definitely not equal footing. I
Mhm.
definitely receive uh, greater support from men,
Mhm.
generally speaking. What I will tell you, though, Simone, is that, especially because of the role that I hold at Cable and Wireless, um, I tend to have a good relationship with just about everyone.
Mhm.
It is important for me to be able to do that, because as the person who speaks to the internal, who communicates to the internal stakeholders, you have to be able to call up someone and say, hey, I need some support with that, or hey, um I need you not to do this, or I need you to, if you continue doing that, it affects other, I need to be able to have, and I think that I have that kind of relationship with everyone, at Cable and Wireless where I work. Maybe stronger relationships in some areas, but I do not know somebody, for example, in the workplace that I would say, that I do not have a good relationship with.
Mhm.
The challenge that I have with women sometimes is that, and not only in the workplace but even outside of the workplace, a lot of times we try to undermine each other. And that for me is something that I sometimes take very hard.
Mhm.
Um, why try to undermine what I'm doing, especially if you possibly may be doing something similar?
Mhm.
Don't try to do that.
Mhm.
Um, it's not going to benefit you. You think it will benefit you, but it is not going to benefit you. There are so many ways that women can work together, even if you're doing something in the same area. Look at you, Simone. Look at you. You
Mhm.
realize what happened with us?
Yes.
So I saw Push Past 10 in my feed, and I said, but oh, I like the page. Then
Thank
Simone is
you.
in my inbox, and Simone says, Ferdina, thank you for liking. I saw you like my page. Thank you for liking.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I said, you're most welcome. And then I'm like, but we're not even friends on Facebook. What's up with that? you know? And since then, we've become friends. I actually made a space became available because I was at my max of friends. So at one point I came and I said I was 4999. I said, okay. I
With
sent
Simone.
I messaged Simone and I said, listen, I have a I have an opening.
What
Oh my
God.
goodness. I sent you a friend request. Please accept it, which you
Uh-huh.
did. And then
Mhm.
been there supporting each other,
Yes.
in whatever the case might be. And that
Mhm.
is the kind of support that we need to give
Mhm.
to each other um,
Mhm.
on the workplace. There is nothing that you're going to gain by running and rat me to the boss because you try to find
Mhm.
favor with the boss.
Mhm.
Eventually, it will come back to bite you. You know where. You understand? So it is not it does not make sense. Why? I don't try to undermine anyone. In fact, sometimes if I see an opportunity for someone else, there was a time that I didn't do ads anymore when I started working at Cable Wireless, and I would pass them on to other people. Okay,
Mhm.
no, I'm sorry, I don't really do ads right now. So
Mhm.
however, I know this person would do a good job for you, and I would pass it over. I'm not going to say, well, you figure it out. No, you make a recommendation. So it's really just about us. I'm not saying that you have to come and clap for me all the time,
Yep.
every time, or whatever the
Yep.
case is. But do not, if you're not clapping for me, it's
Mhm.
okay. But do not try to undermine me.
Yeah,
That's where the
beautifully
problem
said.
lies.
Beautiful. And I'm so happy you shared that that example for Dinah of us connecting, because I too have had experience in other fields where women would try to undermine me and undermine what I'm trying to do. But I have to say, for some reason, since I stepped into the arena of media, I have been so embraced by you, by JL Joseph, by Nicole Georges Bennett, and especially Nicole, because Nicole stepped to the front. She created the commercial to promote untapped potential for me. She's the
Oh,
voice on my program that says you're listening to Untapped Potential with Dr. Simone, and she will just randomly send me a message after an interview to say, "Great job, Simone. I really enjoyed that interview." So I'm guessing that one of the reasons that the women in media, most of them, I can't say all, but most of them, I'm guessing that the reason that they're not threatened by somebody else stepping into the arena is because you're so naturally confident. To be in media as a woman, you have to be so confident in your ability that having someone else step in is not a
it,
threat to
it
you.
it shouldn't matter. And again, I
Yes,
will
it
make
shouldn't
reference
matter.
to a conversation that we had just before we started the show, and you
Yes.
were asking me if I was not going to go, online, and I was explaining to you why, the reason
Mhm.
why, I want to remain radio but stream out anyway
Yes.
to think. And then I said to you, but you are there, you do the the online versions,
Absolutely.
because I mean,
And I think what it is, we have to learn to think in terms of abundance,
mhm,
in terms of instead of scarcity. Because I think what ends up happening is that we think, oh, she's going to come and take my thing. Or if it's
mhm,
a man, he's going to come and take my thing, because we're thinking scarcity.
mhm.
Dominica is not just 60,000 people in Dominica. It's 60,000 people in Dominica, about 150 in the diaspora, and everybody else who loves
Of
Dominica.
course,
So
of
I
course.
want us to think in terms of abundance.
Mm.
There's so much abundance out there. There's enough abundance for you to get your piece of the pie, for me to get my piece of the pie, and for us to help each other to just get the whole damn pie.
Yes.
You
In
know what I mean?
fact,
So it's a mentality.
earlier on I was saying I have a somebody that I want to recommend to you as a guest. I don't know if the person would, would consent, but there's someone that I have. So at the end of the day, there is no need for a competition. There shouldn't really be any competition among
Mm-mm.
whether it be in the media, whether it be within the corporate environment. We all work and we achieve. You do your thing, I do my
Mm-hmm.
thing, and then we all together do it for the good of the people who love
Yes,
us, admire us,
absolutely.
appreciate us in terms of what we do.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm so happy we're having this conversation. And Nicole chimed in. She said, excellence should always be commended and encouraged. Well done, ladies. So thank you so much again, Nicole, for sharing that information. And now, before we wrap up, Ferdinand, I just want to mention again that you're the host of the In the Spotlight program on Monday nights. I'm locked in every Monday listening to
Oh,
you and your
thank
guests.
you.
So I appreciate, and I listen to everyone. I listen to you. I listen to Elevate on Saturday morning. Wherever I can find a program that is highlighting an inspiring person, I'm going to watch and I'm going to listen because
Yep.
that's what I'm interested in. So I know that you started about what was it 8 years ago, and your first guest was Mrs. Armour. Was that a conscious decision to have a woman on as the first guest?
Um, Not necessarily per se. And I'll just
Mhm.
give you a little quick background as it relates to the program. So, the Dominica Association of Industry and Commerce was hosting the annual general meeting that particular year. My general manager, Jeffrey Baptiste, I think might have been the vice president at the time, if I'm not mistaken, or the president, one of them. And I was asked, no, Lillian Piper was the president, and I think my GM was either a member or some executive member. And I was asked to chair the AGM for them. And I consented to do that. And there was a section of the AGM where three business persons were given the opportunity to share their their stories, how they navigated through business and all of that. And the three persons were Mrs. Armour, Mr. Ed, and Mr. Macmillan. These were the three people. And I remember after they were done, coming to the microphone and saying, hey, who's sharing the stories of these people in the media at this time? Now, keep in mind, Alex Bruno, prior to him leaving Dominica, did a program called Positively Dominica, which did
Mhm.
a bit of that. But after Alex left, there was a gap. And so nobody was really doing that. So at the time, Simone, I reached out to the media persons who were present and said to them, hey guys, someone amongst you should take this on and, let's start sharing the stories of our people again. And I left that day, went home, and I thought to myself, but for Dinah, why don't you do it? And then I remembered my dad. I remembered how hard my father worked and how much of a contribution he made. And he never really had an opportunity um, to tell his story, to share it.
Mhm.
So I said, look,
Mhm.
Anna, you do it in memory and honor of your father, and
Mhm.
then get the opportunity to share the stories of our people. I emailed Mr. Gregoire. I said, Mr. Gregoire, this is what I'm thinking. And I would love to be able to do that. I was specific about the time I wanted. I wanted Monday nights at 8 o'clock. At the time, there was another program being done by a lawyer on the Monday night, but he was on a break, I think. And so that was Tiani. And so I said, they told me, well, Tiani's coming back to do the program. So we can offer you 6 to 8. I said, nope. I can't do. I want 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the night. It took about 3 weeks. I was not backing down. It took about 3 weeks, and then Mr. G came back and said, Ferdinand, you can have Monday nights. We'll move the other program to 6 o'clock. And
Mhm.
I felt good about that because it said I think the management of Q95, saw the importance of what I wanted to do and the person who was going to do it, and the impact it would have, not only for the radio station but Dominica by extension. And I've been doing the program since then. I'm not being paid for the program. That's why sometimes I ask for a little support and so on. I don't get paid for the program. Whatever I spend out of my own pocket. Of course, sometimes people support and assist in whatever way that they can. But it's something that I do because I love what I do, and I just want to continue doing that in memory of my father, who was a avid broadcaster. People loved him on radio, and I really just want to ensure by having my voice on radio that people will continue to remember my father and the wonderful, fantastic work that he did as a broadcaster, especially on the national radio station.
Yes, and I know that he's smiling down at you
Oh,
because
yes, yes.
certainly living out his legacy of his love for radio and everything that he contributed to your life. Now, the last thing I want to ask you is I know that you went back to school later in life. Just tell us why that was so important that you're already a very successful person. Chances are you will continue climbing the corporate ladder. So why was it important for you to go back to school? I think you're attending UE at this point.
Yes.
Why was that
So,
important?
so Simone, I will say up front here, and I'll say to anyone who is viewing this program who've not taken that step, that you need to take it, and you need to take it at the earliest that you possibly can, the earliest it is available, the earliest it presents itself to you. Make the first step. You might
Mm-hmm,
only get money for the first semester, but
mm-hmm,
make the step and move. So for me, there's a little story behind it that I'm not really going to get into details of right now. But
mm-hmm.
basically, I really wanted to go and study very earlier on, as soon as I had left six from college, and I had some challenges, couldn't get someone to co-sign the loan for me at the bank, and it was, and so that disappointment really impacted me for a very long time. And so I went on, I worked at DBS, for the thought crossed my mind, here and there, but I just couldn't be bothered. I think the first experience really devastated me. And then I got to cable and wireless, and there it was again, oh my God, I'm more comfortable now. I'm making
Yep.
more money, so you become complacent. And
Mm-hmm.
then it was after Hurricane Maria. One day I was sitting in the office a Saturday waiting for a taxi to come to take me home. And taxi had an issue, and I sat there. And for some reason, I was led to just reopen my laptop and just go to Yui's website. And
Wow.
I'm telling you, the guy had a flat tire, had already packed up, and he said he had a flat
Mm-hmm.
tire, he couldn't pick me up. And after Hurricane Maria, it was very difficult in terms of transportation. My own
Mm-hmm.
vehicle was down, and so. And then I just went and I opened the laptop again, and I just went on. I went onto his website and I started looking. And by the next week, that was a Saturday. By the next week, my documents were at UE.
Wow.
And reason being, Simone, is that we should never become too comfortable, and
Mm-hmm.
we should never be complacent. So whereas I may think, I sit at cable and wireless, and I have a good job, quote unquote, like we say, and I shouldn't be bothered about that. No, I should, because this whole world is so dynamic. Things
Mm-hmm.
are changing so drastically.
Yes.
You have all the experience in the world that you have, but if you do not
Mm-hmm.
have the paper to back it up, there's not many people who may give you that chance or that opportunity. If it turns out today or tomorrow you have to make that move and step out and step up, or do whatever it is that you want to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
I felt that it was not too late for me to do
Mm-hmm.
it. It's tough, I'll tell you. I had to take a break. I'll be back in September, God willing. I had eye surgery and all of that. And so um you should never think it is too late. It is never too late to achieve your goals and to meet your objectives in life. And I will say it again, where it pertains to your education. You're a PhD, aren't you, Dr.
Yes.
Simone? Yes. My brother Bernard, I must say along the way, my brother, if there's anybody who was pushing me about, Ferdina, when are you going back to school? Ferdina, when are you going back to
Yes.
school? That's my brother Bernard. And I would
Mm-hmm.
always find a reason, I could not be bothered, whatever, I'm good. And then, and I'm doing pretty well. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So I need to say to people, do not put education as a second choice, or the side chick or anything like that. Make it a priority, because you do not want to be at this stage in your life still going to school, unless
Mm-hmm.
it's for some PhD or some really higher degree. And so that is just my bit of encouragement, especially to those young people. Once you're able, make that first step. That's all you need to do. Because once I made that first step, Doc, that was
Mm-hmm.
it. You know, I just
And
want
it almost sounds like divine intervention for
Mhm,
Dinah.
mhm,
You were
mhm.
just sitting there, and it seems like some divine intervention said, "Open the laptop and
Yes,
let's just do this." Because why
yes.
have you been putting it off for so long?
I'm telling you, it was
Wonderful.
incredible. Somebody might be listening and say, "Oh, Ferdinand is just making this up." It is not.
Mm-mm,
I could
mm-mm,
tell you, it is not. I am not making
mhm,
this up. This is a true
mhm.
story.
Yes, and congratulations on your decision. And thank you for reminding us that it's never too late to
Those.
begin working on an important goal, whether it's going back to college, whether it is, finally taking control of our financial lives. We have
Mhm.
so many important goals that we've been putting off for so long. So it is never too late to take control and to work on those personal goals. So again, thank you so much for being with us. And I just have one last question to ask you. With all that you have achieved, what would Ferdina of today say to that 16-year-old girl back in the studio? What would you say to her about the journey she was about to embark on?
Well, for one, based on what I just said to you, I would have said to her, "Girl, you should not have broken down. You should not have been discouraged after
Mhm.
that first disappointment that you got, in terms of, furthering your education. You
Mhm.
should have fought it out, and just continue to pursue, continue to go for that drive. Because you know what, Simone, doors will be slammed in our faces. That's a part
Absolutely.
of life. Um, and literally slammed, eh? But
Mhm.
guess what? There are other doors which will open. What I will say to you, when that door is slammed or closed in your face, in preparation for when that right door is open, be prepared.
Yes.
Do what you need to do. If it means that you need to probably do some short courses, if it means
Mhm.
that you have to tap into somebody else's knowledge and experience, if it means that you have to say to someone, "Listen, this is what I would love to do. I would love the opportunity to work at DBS. Can I come and observe you and
Mhm.
watch you?" Prepare for it, because when that door will open for you, you need to be ready to
Mhm.
take advantage of what that open door presents.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. So again, thank you for being here. You have any final words for us as we get ready to wrap up?
Well, I just want to say thank you to you for the
Mhm.
opportunity. Interviews were not things that I did in recent times. I've been invited to be interviewed, and it was always something that I shied away from. I always like being on the other end of the mic. But some guys invited me some time ago. I did it. Jail did it a few years ago, and so I'm becoming a little bit more comfortable in terms of having the questions directed at me as opposed to me directing or throwing out the questions. So I really just want to thank you for that opportunity. The interview that we did today was different from the
Mhm.
last interview that I did. So I really loved the approach that you took
Thank
with that
you.
particular interview. So people get to learn another side of me, or that part of my life. So, thank you for that. And I just want to just encourage everyone to never give up on their hopes and their dreams and their aspirations. Continue to work at it. When that door is closed, as I said, or when that other door is slammed, 20 of them will slam. But as I said, with
Mhm.
every slam door, learn from it and prepare for when the right door is going to open for you.
Yes,
And I really
absolutely.
and I really want to thank all those who tuned in to the
Mhm.
program, and to invite everyone to tune in on Monday nights for the In the Spotlight radio show on Q95 from 8 p.m. And you can also catch it on any of my social media platforms as well.
Yes, and you should absolutely continue these interviews because you have so much to share and we have so much to learn from you. And
Thank
I just
you.
want to acknowledge a few of the comments before we head out. Talia Joseph says, "Now that is what I love to hear." Tanya Green, "Thanks for Diana Frampton." She put your whole name for sharing with us. You are an amazing leader, such an inspiration to
Oh,
us. Continue to be an example to us women.
thank
You are
you.
indeed a beautiful soul. Best
Oh,
wishes for your continued success. Sandra Norris, what a wonderful and encouraging conversation this evening. I enjoyed every bit of it. Continue the great work. Nicholas Roll, well said, Ferdines.
oh,
And let's just
Nikki.
yes. And let's just grab Tina, not wanting to sound like a stuck record, but ladies, what a program. I do agree for Dinah, preparation, meeting opportunities. So a lot of positive words. So I hope that you will continue to do this sort of interviews to share all your experiences and all your encouragement. So again, thank you so much for being here with us.
And thank you, Simone. And I really want to encourage persons as well to continue following Push Past 10. And, let's support each other in this.
Yes, absolutely. So again, everyone, thank you for being here for yet another Facebook Live presentation, Push Past 10, Untapped Potential presentation. Again, my name is Simone Matthew, and I am your host, and I am the moderator of this platform. And again, we are looking forward to promoting our people, our culture, our businesses. So if you would like the opportunity to have your business or your story be shown or listened to by over 45,000 people, then please feel free to contact me. My email address is pushpast10@gmail.com. So that again is pushpast, the number 10.com. And I truly appreciate all your support. And again, don't forget to share the live and to continue to support this platform as we all continue to inspire and motivate each other. So you have yourself a wonderful evening.